unfold.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about the most distant object humans have ever made. It's an incredible story about a probe carrying a message to the stars on a journey that's literally going to outlast our entire planet.
All right, so to really get this, we're actually not going to start at the beginning. We're going to start right now, well, in the very near future, 2026. Because right now, that probe, it's slowly going silent.
Okay, so Voyager 1 has just hit a milestone that is, well, it's just mind-bending. It is now one light day away from us. Let me put that in perspective for you. The light from our own sun takes about 8 minutes to get to Earth. But for us to send a signal to Voyager, it takes a full 24 hours, one way. And just think about what that means. The implications are staggering, really. If you send a simple command, something like, hey, turn your antenna a little bit, that message takes an entire day just to arrive. And then the little, okay, got it, signal from Voyager, that's another full day to come back to us. We're having a 48-hour conversation. It's like talking to a ghost on a very, very long distance line. And here's the heartbreaking part. Its power is fading. It runs on a small plutonium battery, basically, and it's just running out of juice. So to keep its heart beating for just a little bit longer, the folks at Mission Control are making these agonizing choices. They're basically shutting down its senses one by one, deciding which parts of the universe it's not going to see or hear anymore. All just to save enough power to keep its fuel lines from freezing solid.
But here's the thing, and this is what's so incredible. Even as its instruments are failing, even as its signal fades to a whisper, there's this precious cargo that it's carrying that is still perfectly fine, completely untouched. And that really gets to the core question we're asking today.
So to really understand what that cargo is and why it's so important, we have to go back. Let's rewind the clock all the way to 1977. We need to see how this incredible, almost impossible journey even got started. And spoiler alert, it wasn't about raw power. It was about some beautiful cosmic timing. The whole thing, the entire mission, was possible because of this one brilliant trick. It's called a gravity assist, and the idea is just genius. You fly your spacecraft really close to a huge planet, say Jupiter. You let its massive gravity kind of grab onto you, and then it just slingshots you out the other side, giving you a massive speed boost for free. It's literally the only reason Voyager could go so far so fast. But of course, there's a catch. For that slingshot to work, to go from one planet to the next and the next, they all have to be lined up perfectly. And that alignment, this so-called grand tour of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, it only happens once every 176 years. So they had one shot. That was it. If they missed it, the next opportunity wouldn't come around until sometime in the 2100s. Now, here's where it gets kind of sneaky. NASA was facing huge budget cuts. So officially, the mission was only approved for a 5-year trip to Jupiter and Saturn. That's it. But the engineers, the brilliant folks at JPL, they knew. They knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So they basically built the spacecraft for the ages, in secret. They radiation-hardened everything, they designed it to last for decades, all while telling Congress, oh yeah, it's just a quick 5-year trip. It's fantastic.
And that brings us to the probe's most famous passenger. Because bolted to the side of Voyager, tucked inside a protective aluminum case, is the Golden Record. It is basically Earth's mixtape, our attempt to say hello and explain who we are to anyone or anything that might be out there. So you have this committee, led by the legendary Carl Sagan, and they've got less than 6 months to somehow capture all of humanity on a single record. But, and this is key, they didn't just record everything. This wasn't a raw documentary. No, they made a very specific choice to put our best foot forward. So you'll find the sound of laughter, but not the sound of war. You'll hear the sounds of nature, but not the sounds of poverty or disease. It's not necessarily humanity as we are, but humanity as we hope to be.
And you can imagine this whole process was full of these intense debates. My favorite one is about whether to include Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. One of the committee members apparently thought rock and roll was too adolescent. And Carl Sagan's response was just perfect. He said, there are a lot of adolescents on the planet. And that just nails it, right? The whole point was to represent all of us, not just the highbrow parts.
So they also collected greetings in 55 different languages. And instead of getting, stuffy world leaders, for the English greeting, they had Carl Sagan's 6-year-old son do it. And the messages themselves are just so wonderfully human. My absolute favorite is the one in the Amoy dialect. It basically translates to, "Hey space friends, how's it going? Have you eaten yet? If you've got time, you should come visit." I mean, how perfectly, beautifully normal is that?
Okay, but beyond all the music and the pictures and the greetings, tucked away inside the data is the record's most profound secret. It is, and I mean this quite literally, a love story, etched into gold and sent out to the stars. It all started with this amazing question from the record's creative director, a woman named Anne Dryan. She asked the team, look, we can send pictures, we can send music, but can we send a feeling? I mean, how do you even begin to explain the feeling of love to an alien who might not even have that concept?
Well, the answer came from a really personal, really beautiful moment. Just days before the record had to be finished, Anne Dryan and Carl Sagan had this one phone call where they both just realized they were deeply, profoundly in love. So what did she do? Anne went to a hospital. They hooked her up to an EEG machine to read her brainwaves, and for 1 solid minute, she just thought about that feeling, the feeling of falling in love. And they recorded it, they recorded her brainwaves, converted that electrical activity into sound, and put it on the record.
Just pause and think about what that means for a second. If, and it's a big if, but if some future civilization finds this thing and is smart enough to decode it, they're not just going to find pictures of us. They're not just going to hear our music. They will have the actual physiological electrical signature of a human being's brain in the middle of experiencing overwhelming love. It's a fossil of a feeling.
So fast forward a few years. Voyager's main mission is long over, but it had one last thing to show us. A final, incredible image that kind of puts this whole message in a bottle thing into a totally new perspective.
You see, the Golden Record, it was all about our pride, right? It was this optimistic, hand-picked vision of our art, our science, our hopes. It was us shouting into the dark, hey, look what we can do, look what we feel, this is who we are.
But then in 1990, Carl Sagan asked them to do one last thing. Turn the camera around and take a picture of home from 6 billion kilometers away. And what they sent back was this. Earth. A single pale blue dot. Just a tiny speck of dust hanging in a sunbeam. And it's just this profound lesson in humility. So if the record is our pride, then this image, this is our perspective.
So, where does that leave us? What's the ultimate fate of this silent ambassador and its golden cargo, as it just keeps drifting out into the deep, interstellar dark?
Well, first off, the record itself is an engineering masterpiece. It's made of gold-plated copper, and it's designed to withstand the constant peppering of cosmic dust for a very, very long time. The best guess is that it will still be readable for over 5 billion years. And just to put that number into context for you, in about 5 billion years, our own sun is expected to swell up into a red giant and completely engulf the Earth. So, let that sink in. This message in a bottle is almost certainly going to outlive our entire planet. When Earth is gone, the Golden Record will still be out there, floating in the dark. It might be the very last thing left of us.
And that brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? The odds that anyone or anything will ever find this thing are, well, they're basically zero. So if no one ever listens to it, did it even matter? Was it all a waste? I don't think so. Because maybe, just maybe, the real audience for the Golden Record was never some alien civilization. Maybe the real audience was us. The process of making it, of putting it together, forced us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves a really hard question. What about our messy, complicated, beautiful species is actually worth saving? What's worth remembering for eternity? And maybe that act of self-reflection, that act of hope, was the most important message of all.